Word coming out now of an explosive new book on the Clintons' time in the White House. One of Bill Clinton's Secret Service agents, who you see pictured there, Gary J. Byrne, reportedly set to spill some tales of infidelity, screaming matches, and even a black eye that he talks about. He also claims Hillary Clinton terrorized her staff. There's the cover of the New York Post today, branding her behavior Jekyll and Hyde. Yep. The author, Gary Byrne, writes this, quote, "So consumed were they by scandal, so intent on destroying their real or imagined enemies, that governing became an afterthought. With Hillary's latest rise, I realized that her own leadership style, volcanic, impulsive, enabled by sycophants, and disdainful of the rules set for anyone else, has not changed a bit," he writes. Matt Schlapp, former White House political director under President George W. Bush and chairman of the American Conservative Union, and Marianne Marsh, former senior advisor to Secretary John Kerry. Welcome to both of you. Good morning to you. Matt, let me start with you. What's the impact of this, potentially?
Well, you know, when everyone thinks of the Clinton scandals during the Clinton White House years, they think it's about sex. And I actually think what we're seeing about the Clintons is about something totally different. It's about them having a separate set of rules or not having to follow the rules. And there are basic questions of character, not just in covering up infidelities and the rest of these questions, but in how they treated others and how they treated themselves, how they treated their colleagues. When I came into the White House right after that 2000 election, I had Secret Service agents and White House staff relay similar types of stories. It's how they roll, and the American people should know it.
Let's take a look at some of the quotes from the book. Some of them allude to the kinds of things that you just talked about. Number one, this is the Secret Service agent talking. "I even secretly disposed of sordid physical evidence that might later be used to convict the president. The blue dress wasn't the only evidence of his misdeeds." He goes on to say, "Sure enough, there was a box containing a light blue vase," and he's talking about a time when he claims that Hillary Clinton slung this vase across the room and smashed it to bits. He says the rumors were true, and he also goes on to talk about a shiner, a real live, put a stake on it, black eye that he says Bill Clinton was walking around the White House with after a particularly difficult argument. Marianne, what do you make of all this?
I think this book is just one more example of where this campaign's going, which is straight to the gutter. And the fact is, a really negative campaign is the bet that Donald Trump is hoping for, because it's the only one he can win. Because people get turned off by truly negative campaigns. They won't vote, and that explains the fact that he's continuing to campaign like he did during the primary, which is to base voters. He wants and needs this to be a base vote election. And the question is, do other voters, the rest of the country, repudiate this kind of campaign and him and turn out to vote in droves? To me, that is what we're looking for over the next 5 months, because if it's just a base vote and Trump wants women in particular to stay home by characterizing the Clintons this way, that's the one he wins. And that's, I think, what everybody's looking for, and that's what a book like this contributes to.
Yeah. So the political impact is the bottom line, Matt. What kind of impact does it have on the overall race, and does this kind of stuff get some voters to say, you know what, I'm just disgusted by the whole thing, I'm just not going to participate?
Yeah, I think that's right, but I also think voters benefit from knowing more information. And I know everyone wants to talk about Trump and Trump's campaign, but Trump has nothing to do with this book. This gentleman wrote this book because he felt compelled to write about it. And I think it's fair to say that Hillary Clinton acted in a certain way during all those years that her husband was in the White House, and it wasn't all positive. And there's a lot that the American voter needs to know. And I think the fact that voters get this information is a positive thing. And I think the character of the person who's going to become president and the way they operate is important. And we read a lot about Donald Trump. I think it's important to know, who is Hillary Clinton as a person? How does she treat people? How did she treat underlings? How did she treat the very people that were there to protect her life?
Look, books like this raise one question. Why do you write them now? This book could have been written 20 years ago.
Because she's running for president.
It could have been written, Martha and Matt, the fact is, Hillary Clinton ran for president 8 years ago, and this book wasn't written. So you oftentimes have to question. There have been lots of books, and Hillary Clinton has been discussed in many different ways for decades. So then it says, for people who don't like the Clintons, this just reinforces it. For people who do, they don't believe it. And I think for the rest of the country who has yet not decided where they're going to go in this election, it won't be that big a factor, but it will drive this campaign deeper into the gutter than it already is, with 5 months to go. And I think that, in particular, is exactly the kind of thing we should reject in politics today.
Some would say, you know, these activities and these stories are out there, and, you know, whether it's being driven into the gutter or the reality of some of these stories, put it there. There's a lot of young voters who maybe are not aware of all the stuff that all of us lived through, and it goes to sort of filling in some of the blanks for them. Matt,
it's also a question of Marianne hasn't answered, neither has the Clinton campaign. They haven't even had a comment on these specific allegations. If this is all false,
were you there, Matt?
And let me finish. If this is all false and this is not true, I want to hear why it's false and not true. Quit going after the author and start talking about the facts. The American people want the facts.
Well, and the fact is, Matt, you don't have the facts, and I don't have the facts.
But
so there you go.
You know who does? Hillary Clinton has the facts.
Well, yeah, somebody knows, and this Secret Service agent says that this is the story that he lived when he was in the White House, and there have been so many stories over the years that it does raise this sort of issue of, like, you know, can they all be not true? But we'll see. Marianne, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Matt, good to see you as always.